Nice. Hi.
What in the world?
It's been a minute.
Is it 2008?
I'm in
Kara
my
Davin.
30s. I'm allowed to
I
be
think we need to
like
cancel
that.
stream now.
Yeah, I think we're done. Guys, we're going home.
No. We
Okay,
can't
bye.
start like that. We can't start.
We're gonna have to go again.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Haji. Hi, Zandra. Hi, Midnight. Who else is here? Halibut. Hello, friends.
Other folks.
Hi, friends. Welcome
It has
back.
been a minute. It has been a
It's
minute.
winter now.
It is winter now, and it's cold, and it's terrible outside right now. Totally unreasonable. Totally unreasonable. Welcome to LessThan3NPC. We're sort of a semi-regular talk show podcast or showcast where three friends talk about various topics that can come up while friends are gaming, and but the topics tend to be a bit too in-depth or complicated for chatting whilst gaming. So we started this, and it's been kind of a fun ride so far. And I was just looking at it. I think we're coming up on a year-ish of doing this.
Really?
I have a clip from February 28th, 2022.
Yeah, because we talked about like doing this after like winter, or like we were like talking about like it was like a beginning of spring thing. So
yeah. It was just cool.
Wait, did we do this before cabin times?
I think so.
I think so.
Yep. I think we were like 2022, New Year, let's do it.
Right.
And it was, and we did.
And it was, yeah. But anywho, I'm Joe. I use they, thems. I'm a lifeguard, swim instructor. I spent a decade or so in the social work and specifically in the sexual violence sector. Huge nerd, gamer, motorsport enthusiast, particularly Formula One. That's me. I'll throw it over to Des.
Hey, I am Des. I'm on the internet. I usually make porn. Sometimes I make a documentary. But mostly I make porn, and I'm on the internet, and I have lots of opinions. That's it. I am they, them. Bye.
Hi.
Kara.
I'm Kara. She, her pronouns. I make stuff, mostly video related. Trying for new passion projects in 2023.
Ooh.
That's the goal. But yeah, no, I do officially stuff for other people. Mostly. That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then I get to do some fun stuff like this. So, yeah.
Stuff and things.
Stuffs and things. It's professional filmmaker trying to make that official and not feel weird about it, but it's true. So
you are.
Yeah.
That is the thing you do.
I shot the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do documentary things.
Sometimes we do documentary things. But
well, now
January
that this
3rd.
one's out, January 3rd?
Yeah, that was the first one. Halibut's in here with that.
Coming up on a year.
We are coming up on a year.
Oh, I love that.
We'll have to mark that or remember that at some point.
We'll have to do like a LessThan3NPC like birthday party thing.
Yeah.
Why don't we do a Q&A?
Yeah. We'll do something.
Sure.
We'll figure it out.
Something special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We always figure out like what the episode's going to be like the day before. So we're like,
yeah, it's fine.
Whatever.
we're super organized here.
Super organized and super official. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Real professionals.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I figured out I'm good at setting up systems of organization. I'm not good at maintaining them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think we if we hit a year, I think we're still doing A-okay. So nothing too worried about that.
Yeah. Because we're adults. We get busy. And speaking of being adults, our topic tonight is dating as an adult. And so this question or this topic came as a suggestion from, I don't actually remember who.
Was it Serena?
Maybe.
No, it was someone in chat
in
this
chat?
week.
And say you can take
Was it
credit for it.
midnight? I think it might have been midnight.
Maybe. But we
It
thought it
was
was a good
someone
one.
in chat.
We thought it was a good one. Yep. Pippin has blessed
Well,
us
that's a
with his
good
presence.
perch.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
a good perch. Look at that.
It was midnight. Okay. Thank you, midnight. And then we always add a B topic just in case, we run out of things to say. Doesn't happen. Hasn't happened yet.
It has not happened yet. Sometimes we have a B topic and then we just don't do it because we're too busy talking about a topic.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. But the B topic is like single or not living, but it's related to the dating as an adult, because I think the alternative to dating, is living alone, and I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing that we can do. But there is stigma associated with it, or there has been, and I think it's less these days than it has been in recent decades. But I can see that I'm currently glitching cyberpunk style, so I'm going to throw
Yeah.
it to Kara or Des and fiddle from the camera to kick us off. So I'll just throw the first question out there.
Mhm.
What? Why is dating as an adult a thing separate from what we're talking about? Like, what's different about dating as an adult?
Oh. Well,
Des,
there's
you go
like
first.
there's like formative dating, which is like not, I don't know, it's like not serious. It's not dating with any sort of like um commitment to like the rest of your life. Like dating as a teenager is sort of just like, hey, I'm exploring my interactions with other people. I'm exploring my own emotions. I'm exploring my body, exploring other people's bodies. Like, it's all very exploratory. It's all very like new venture, like it's adventure time. Dating as an adult is much more like, there's some stuff attached to this. How long am I going to be with this person? What does that mean? What is that, there's like a level of like perceived importance of dating as an adult, and that like perceived importance adds a certain quality to the dating, because people don't like it when you fuck around when you're like over 30. They're just like, no, you're an adult, you should be looking for the one. So it's different. It's got different expectations.
Mm-hmm. Kara,
I
any
got
thoughts?
Form B42 over here for myself. It's fine. Xandra, I believe, keeps the PDF on Dropbox somewhere for me. It's all good. Yeah, it's no. I don't know. I feel like this is a really vulnerable topic for me because it's like, as someone who doesn't really have any sort of, I've been on 2 dates in my life, and
That you know of.
no, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I remember them because they were slightly traumatic. But how many years of tax returns did you want proof? Thank you. At least 7, Xandra. The whole system, 7 years. I'm thorough. No, it's something that I was thinking about this when we decided that this was going to be a topic. Dating as a concept to me is very challenging. Especially when I was younger, there's a lot that can go into, well, first off, internalized homophobia, that can really hinder the excitement that can go with dating. So it's something that has always been a real significant challenge for myself. But like, so internalized homophobia was definitely a factor. 2, very introverted, have a hard time connecting with people. 3, I don't understand dating games. I don't get it. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't feel comfortable in the God, I'm gonna sound like I'm like 75. In the manner of courtship of
You
an
don't sound like you're 75.
individual.
You sound like you're in a what was it sounds like you're in, what's it called? I'm blanking on it. Some sort of
Oh.
period book.
I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, the process of courting one another um
Courting a
is
fair
something.
maiden.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. um I think in my brain that looks very different than how I think a lot of people want that to go. Um, so
Hmm.
I think I could be a very romantic person, but it's a very drawn out process for me. Like
Hmm.
there's I think we talked about this a little bit about when we were talking about like what is love
Mhm.
in our episode prior. You can go look at that on YouTube. Um, but it was
Sorry, I just.
basically,
What is
huh?
love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
No more.
No more.
What
Sorry.
is love? Baby, don't hurt. Yeah, no. I
I
listened to way
apologize.
more
I
emo
apologize to
stuff
chat.
during
I
that time.
apologize to Des and
Yeah.
Karen.
Um, but it's a challenge because like, okay, you know what? Here's a better way to counter this situation. If
Thank you, Albert.
you were all in a courting situation, right? What are the first like couple steps that you think is the appropriate manner to approach something? So you find someone that you like, maybe you know them as maybe a little bit more than acquaintance, or if you want to go down the road, explain like if it's online dating or something.
Well, with exception of my current partner, the like the typical like timeline of that has been like be friends with that person for like 3 years and
Mm,
Hmm.
then and then decide you're in love with them.
right.
My current partner, it was kind of the exception to that. I actually just met her on Tinder, and we went on dates, but we didn't live in the same city, so we did like the long distance thing for like 4 years,
Hmm.
and then she moved to my city.
Which helps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
is
hear that
nice.
helps. Yeah.
I really save on gas now, so that's nice. Um, but yeah, like I think the sort of typical thing is like you meet someone in your area, and more acceptably now, like on the internet, to do like sometimes long distance dating or whatever. But
Hmm.
like you meet someone, you do like an appropriate amount of like dates where nothing is like set in stone, and then you set it in stone where you're in a relationship and you're in a relationship for that amount of time, and then you get engaged and then you get married and you have babies and you die.
Holy fuck, that
Relationship
accelerated
escalator.
real quick down
The
this
relationship
there.
escalator, right?
I was like, I was expecting like this is how we communicate and like this is how we set up a date and like this is how blah 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 blah. No, all the way to
No,
proper
all the
death.
way to the end.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I
something
mean,
else.
online dating's more common these days, but
Right. Yeah.
there's been I see like nowadays there's more of a resistance to it,
To what?
to online dating.
Oh,
Yeah. And like people hate it because it sucks.
never had a profile.
Hmm. Neither have
It
I.
sucks.
No, thanks. I think for me mostly, and so it was interesting because I had a conversation once with a few people over time, and they're like, maybe you should try online dating. And the first thing that popped into my brain was like, there's a real hard time for me to be infatuated with people. So when you're on a profile, which is just basically an image of the person and a
Right.
like point form mode of like detailed self-explained interests,
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't know how to connect with this because first off my brain goes like, they're all liars. And they're just, this is like a resume, it's not the full truth, it's only partial truth. um and then another part of my brain goes like, do I acknowledge just the immediate visual aspect of a person? Because I know for myself, I'm like, that doesn't get me very far. Like if I meet someone who I might be like, oh, you're visually attractive to me, I'd be like, cool. But and then I meet them and then you're just like, ah. I actually don't like your personality, and then you run away. Like I don't know what to do with that.
What is that chart called? It's like the hot crazy scale. It's like the hotter you are.
What is
Yeah, it's
that?
like the hotter you are, the crazier you're allowed to be. But you're
Oh,
hot,
shit.
like so, like there's like a line, say like on a chart. It's like if you're above this hotness level, then you can be like at this crazy level. So for you, it's like yours is like it's like
Right.
there's
It's a
no
line.
amount of hot that you can be to be that
No.
crazy.
It was interesting. Someone put it into words the other day, and I just scrolling on Instagram or whatever, and it was really interesting. Someone made a list of things that they thought were important in partners, and someone wrote this down. And I know not everyone's going to agree with this. I get it. I'm very aware of this, but it's like one of the most unimpressive things you can do is just base your attraction off of someone who how they look. Like it's the people are born with the bodies they have, right? And the scale of how much attention is attached to that, the word unimpressive really fit with me because I was just like, because that's your bod, that's your
Yeah.
face.
It's
Yes,
like the
people can
least
go do
interesting thing
stuff to
about
it.
you.
Huh?
It's like the least interesting thing about you.
Yeah.
It's like how hot you are.
Sure. Like tell me what you're passionate about. Like, oh my god, you want to get me going? Start like going down your passion road of like your interests and your nerdy things or like what you're obsessed with and stuff like that. Then I'm just like, I can listen to you for hours. Like, and especially if it's a topic I have no information on whatsoever. I will just talk and I will listen because that's attractive to me.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I don't mean to say that in like any sort of offense or way of interpreting that category of what I find attractive in a person. It's just dating, bringing it back to that, is like primarily focused on a lot of just visual, like immediate visuals. Like how many movies do we watch where romances are started up just because someone sees someone across the room or at like a bar or like whatever it is? Or is it online dating? Or in the olden days when they were delivered a portrait and they would have said, do you fancy them? Like that's
Well, it's not that do you fancy them. It's like here's who you're going to marry.
Yeah, here's who you're
yeah,
going
and you're
to
just
marry.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
You're like, oh
Oh.
dear. Okay.
Sometimes you don't even know till the day of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, you're blonde.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like it's not that I can't look at a person and be like, "Oh, you look beautiful." Like I have that capability in my body, in my mind. I can do that. But when it comes down to I think opening up yourself to be like vulnerable or be emotional with someone or become physical with someone, I think it's just much more satisfying to my brain to develop that relationship, right? In not a pure physical manner. And I would hope like there would be the same thing back to me. It's just like I don't hold a lot of value on what I visually look like. I would hope that someone would be attracted to me because of like the things that I'm interested in, or I'm an outdoor adventure cat and they want to go do that too. Stuff like that. So it's a challenge, especially when you get older, because the stigma is real. The stigma is real. It's heavy.
For sure.
And it's shitty. It's really shitty because it's I can say for myself, I feel so behind in a lot of things when it comes to partnerships. And this is actually therapy, folks, very important to go do. Definitely recommend. But like that's something that I'm approaching with therapy right now is like the value of self in a way that I'm like, okay, if I can get to a point where I value myself, then I can start extending that to valuing other people in a way that I could be like, oh, okay, I can trust someone with vulnerability and potentially open up part of my life for that. But for so many years, that was like never an option. It was just flat out no.
Yeah.
And then two, with social anxiety, it's like, how do I reflect who I actually am versus the pressure of who I think I should be, right? And in a lot of social scenarios, especially when we're like, again, places where people are like, you should go meet someone at a bar, and I'm like, that is my nightmare.
No, don't do that.
Like, please don't encourage that in my life, because I feel anxious just thinking about that concept.
Go meet someone at a comic book store.
Sure. Des is in with the legit information and wisdom. Da, Kara. What the fuck is wrong with you? No, but it's the circumstances of dating, I think, is just, it's so strange that a lot of people have. Here's the other. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna let it. I'm gonna put a pin in that thought. You continue on if you've all had thoughts about that.
I do. I mean, I was going to say, just going to jump in. I think Kara and I have lots of conversations around having sort of like missed the memo as like queer. Well, I guess like me not knowing I was non-binary, but like being queer people who are introverts who like we're always sort of socially awkward. Like you feel like you missed the memo when it comes to the dating conversation, whereas so many people sort of take the scripts for granted, right? That like they know what to do or they look like they know what to do and all that kind of stuff. But like the idea of like seeing someone that you're attracted to, because I do differ a little bit in that like from a like personal perspective, like physical attraction is a part of it, but it's not that like I'm putting all of the stock in that. But for me, like I do see a person like, oh, they're interesting, you know, physically and stuff like that. But for me, like it quickly does need more to the conversation or to the factors of attraction around like I do need to get to know the person more, right? But the physical components do stand out. So I mean that's I don't know something maybe need to examine from a social perspective, a socialization perspective, but I don't know. It is what it is. That's who I am. That's how I approach things. But again, I don't put that much stock into it. But the idea of then approaching that person and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in you. Would you like to go on a date?" seems weird to me because I don't know who this person is, right? And like I said, I do need to know more about who they are before I can consider do I want to pursue some sort of like friendship with them. And I've learned again, like Kara says, through therapy that like friendship first, I think is a really important aspect for me where like I need to have some sort of foundation that I'm there's like a mutual exchange happening, right? Where we're both getting something out of the dynamic and the romantic component feels like the next logical step. That's something that I'm like realizing I need to happen or to have in place before like I'm interested in adding that romantic component. So the idea of dating someone to get to know them feels weird to me, right? That you go on dates to get to know somebody. I don't know. And this is just me, just feels forced. That you both enter into this exchange, evaluating each other in this like interview process, basically, right? Dating as an interview, you know? And I don't know. I'd rather approach it as like, hey, I really like being around this human and I want to be around this human more. And I want to add intimate components to that dynamic. And yeah, I don't know. Like I just, and that's why I feel like I've missed the memo on what dating is supposed to be. Because when I look at other people around me, it's like they just go on dates, right? They open up Tinder, swipe right or left or whatever, and they just go on a date. It's just I don't know. That's just seems horrifying to me as a conceptual thing. And I know
People scare
Kara
me
and I
too
have,
much.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's like
No.
what if they're a white supremacist, white feminist Nazi person? You know, like how do I escape that conversation? How do I just leave? And of course, you can just leave, right?
Yeah.
But my social anxiety, and again, this is the therapy stuff where it's like I don't want to, I don't know how to escape that social interaction. You know, like if it's not a connection, how do I get out of it? But But again, I'm preemptively sabotaging it going well. So again, this is stuff I'm working on therapy that I'm not going to put on a future partner to process for me, So
Mhm.
I'm realizing as we're having this conversation
Oh, no.
that I have very different dating philosophies than both of you.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad we have a different dynamic. And yet we are still friends. So it all works out.
It all works out. I dated a lot of different ways over the years. Like I've done everything from like, oh, this friend I've been dating for 10 years, I'm gonna finally enter a or not dating. This friend I've had for 10 years, I'm gonna finally
Mhm.
enter a relationship with, to like uh one night stands turning into like 6 month to a year relationships. Like, or what was intended to be a one night stand, like turning into a relationship. Like I've been like the whole spectrum, short of getting married. Um, but I think with me, sort of how I choose to date sort of sets the tone for the type of relationship I'm looking for in the moment. Because
Mhm.
there were like periods of my life where I wasn't in a place mentally to like be in a relationship. But I wanted casual sex, or I wanted someone
Mhm.
reliably that I could have casual sex with that I thought was like safe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What is
Pippin's
Pippin doing?
like, I'm gonna take your arm no matter what you do.
this is my cat. Um, so like if I'm just looking for something casual, I'm gonna choose a casual uh method, I guess.
Mhm.
Like Tinder or dating sites or whatever. Pippin?
What a cuddle bug.
I
All right,
know.
Cuddlebug, I love you. Get off. Um but if I want something more serious, I usually end up meeting or interacting with that person long term before we ever enter a relationship. And like those ones tend to last the longest. Again, the current exception being my current partner who I've been dating for like 5 years and I met her on Tinder. But like yeah, so like how I date kind of says, what I need from the next partner for me.
Mhm. Well, and I think to that point, there's again to bring it back to the conversation again, because of some of the things I'm working on in therapy, because of like old wounds and and how I've grown up and stuff like that. There's stuff that I've realized I need to unpack before I approach the dating thing, because I've only just realized like something I want from a partner um, at 36, which is horrifying in a way, but also fuck the timelines. Who cares when I figure this shit out? Um, but like, and it came up in chat earlier, but like, I've realized that like for me, a thing I'm looking for in a romantic partner, romantic dynamics, I guess, is a passion of something, right? I found over the years I'm particularly attracted to artistic people. But what I've realized is not necessarily them being an artist per se, it's them having a clear defined interest in life. Um, and so there's someone recently where it was like they were really into ballet, and I found that really interesting, um, or if they were like really into comic book art, or really into drawing or something like that. Again, still artistic y, um, but I think that passion aspect is something that I'm definitely interested in. It's something I seek for myself, having that like clear focus on like who I am, what am I interested in, what's my passion. Because I've been a chameleon my whole life and don't really have a clear, defined kind of identity that way. But again, this is not me processing my therapy. But it's a both and, right? I'm attracted to that and interested in being around that kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't really realize that, so I couldn't really approach dating because I didn't really know what I wanted out of another person, you know. So
Right.
that Des, what you're saying there about like how you approach dating determines how casual you are or not with it. Um, you do need to know what you want out of the exchange,
Mhm.
right? You do need to know what you want out of a partner, what you're looking for in somebody, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty big. I mean, for me, the process didn't like why I did what I was doing did not become clear to me until many years after I had already been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, I only get back on my Tinder when I'm like lonely and like not feeling super committed to anyone. Like those are the times when I go back on my Tinder. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a good fulfilled relationship or like whatever. Like I'm getting all my needs met. It's like even though I'm poly and I've been poly for many years, it's not something I reach for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't always know that. I just was like, oh, am lonely. Going to get validation points on Twitter and maybe have sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you highlight that from Halibut Barn? I hear this. It feels like to even think of dating, I'd have to be able to see something in myself worth offering and it
Mm-hmm.
not always feeling that. Whoa. Yeah. That's a hefty one. And I think that goes back to the whole thing where if you don't recognize yourself as being worthy of sharing part of your life with another human,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't. That's just the circumstance of how our brains process our self-worth, right? And it's a real it can be a real dark challenge to get over, because you're sitting here and you're going, if I don't feel like someone else in the world would even appreciate the time or my existence around them,
Mm-hmm.
then that's just the truth, because you are contained in a bundle of that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
You're not able to expand out because, again, one of the largest challenges of social dynamics in our existence is the fact that we cannot read each other's minds.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how people feel around us unless they say something about it, right? And I think it can be a real shock to the system sometimes, where either we hear something really positive about ourselves from another human being, but in that moment, if you're not in a place of self-worth, that is interpreted as just blankness. It doesn't set in yourself that you're worthy of that. um, whether or not you believe this is corny or not, everyone deserves love,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what form that may be. And people have different variations of what they value in terms of love. Either it's like the love they feel from their friends or from their family or from specific romantic partners, or if you're just like, one night stands is all I want, that's how I feel loved, then so be it. Like, there's no one out there to tell you necessarily what's healthy or what's not. um but it does come back down to that comment of like, what do I feel like I'm offering to another person?
Mm-hmm.
If that is, and this is the thing that I'm working on right now, is that shouldn't be based off of a value system of worth. What
Yeah.
I have to offer is just myself,
Mhm.
right? And this is what we're learning, because it's just like, um I am incapable of really shifting who I am for another person. I don't do that very well. And that's both been a blessing and a curse, is what that feels like. Um, but the main vulnerability I have with that is the fact that I've never really thought of myself as something that is approachable to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Either because my past shit that I got to deal with, or I wouldn't be a good enough partner for someone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really strong thought in myself, is because, again, that comes down to, what do I have to offer? What is my, like, if we were talking about this like monetarily, like, what is my value number that I have to offer to another human being? Like, that's how
I'm
fucked
gonna
up
blow
my
your mind
brain
right now.
works. What's
gonna blow
that?
your mind right now. I'm gonna blow your mind
Oh,
right now.
I'm ready,
Uh,
Des. Let's hear it. Ears are open.
You're worth nothing to a person who is not looking for whatever you got going on.
Right.
But
Yes.
you cannot determine your worth like from somebody. Like you can't determine what your worth is to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct. Yes.
So,
There's no
like-
way to know that.
So
Well,
the whole thing with getting caught up with being like, am I enough, or like, am I? You don't get to determine what is enough
mhm.
because everybody's version of enough is different.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like getting caught up in this, like, I don't know what I can offer, like I don't know if I'm gonna be worthy to someone else. Like you don't know because you haven't picked a person to decide whether or not you're gonna work for them.
Correct. This
Yeah.
is the PSA about depression. Ba-ba-ba-da,
Like, and
ba-ba-da.
I mean, like, this is it's
No,
this
I'm
a thing that I had to teach myself because I
Yes.
too
Mhm.
am depressed. I hate the like you can't learn to love somebody else until you learn to love yourself. Some of
I
us are just
fucking
not
hate
going to
that
love
too.
ourselves, and that's
Yeah.
fucking fine. I still think I'm worth something. I just don't love me. It's fine.
Mhm.
I deal with me. We exist in the same body. It's fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But somebody else
Yeah.
can love me, and I'm not going to call them stupid or dumb for that.
Well, and the other thing too, to kind of like build off of that is, and this is the thing that I'm sort of realizing is my process that I need to get away from, is I'll fall in love with a concept, a fantasy of a person based off a real concept, a real person, and then measure that fantasy against reality and be disappointed that the reality doesn't measure up to the fantasy, right? And the thing there, and it's connected to Des's point, if you follow me around the garden path here, is just that like we don't control the other person, right? And we need to put ourselves out there to an extent where they see who we are and think, oh, I want to be around that person, right? So to Des's point, it's not under our control, right? So we have to know what we like, who we are, the things we like about ourselves, and go with that, lean into those things. And it's up to somebody else on the outside to think, oh, that's cool that they are that way. I want to be around that person, right? But it's not entirely under our control, which is the frustrating thing about it, right? Is we're dealing with another human being who gets to
Mhm.
decide that we have value, right? Or wants to be around what we're offering. If we're waiting, and this is me talking to myself about this, so I'm not excluding myself from this conversation. If we're waiting for something magical to present ourselves, that I'm now worth something, right? Ding, I'm worth it. It's not going to happen. It's not ever going to happen because that's us. That's us telling ourselves that we're
Mhm.
not worth it, right? And that's us trying to avoid disappointment. That's us trying to avoid being vulnerable. That's us trying to avoid rejection. All those things kind of suck. Like rejection sucks. Being vulnerable and not having it not go well sucks. But again, I'm coaching myself here. We do have to risk that if we do want that connection. Ultimately.
Right, but to that point, I was saying is like once you start tackling that inner chat about what is my worth, what am I worthy, blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
that encourages confidence and courage and all these other really positive kind of energy that you can then transfer out exterior to yourself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily, I'm not sitting here being like, I have to have a calculated chart about how much I love myself and how much worth I am and blah 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 blah. No, I'm not talking about that. But what I'm saying is, like, as
You had
someone
the
who's
pencil for it though, which I thought was
Yeah,
pretty.
and the
Yeah.
7 years of tax
Yeah.
returns.
it's
Yeah.
actually a pen, but you know, that's fine. Um
Red ink or
no,
black ink?
it's blue.
Okay.
Does it look black in the camera? Probably. It's
Looks
blue
black
though.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Um no, I'm just saying from 2 decades almost of suffering the perpetual pressure of what depression can do to your brain,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really, really, really hard thing to break that cycle of creating a space where someone used the word, and it made me think of this point. We use the word burden
Mm-hmm.
a lot when we talk about depression, because depression is like, a lot of the components of that is, I am a burden to exist. I'm a burden
Mm-hmm.
to my friends. I'm a burden to my family. I'm a burden to everyone else. So it's like, how dare I create a burden on another person, right? Especially if it was to be an intimate partner. And I think that approach is obviously not very helpful
Mm-hmm.
for anybody, not only just yourself, but anyone around you. It creates a very distancing bubble. And when you start being aware about this, and when you start acknowledging like the challenges that you've had with like interpersonal relationships, it's like sometimes that voice is always a little bit louder
Mm-hmm.
than other concerns. And so that's what I mean by like, you have to be able to curve that a little bit
Yeah.
before you get out into the world, because it's just it's not gonna end well. It's really not.
I am just in my life, I am friends with especially men, obviously. Or not obviously, just in general in my
Obviously,
life.
Des, you're just friends with men. Obviously.
Words are hard. I am friends with people, mostly men, who like take like the first chunk of that, like, oh, am I worthy or am I not, or whatever. Like they take that and just let depression or anxiety or defeatism or whatever turn
Mm.
that into I will never be worthy. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
that's never going to be a thing that I'm going to have. I'm going to be single
Right.
forever. Like I'm
Right.
never going to be worthy of another person. It's never going to happen to me. And then they
Mm-hmm.
wait for that validation to just happen for them. Like
Yeah.
they're just waiting for someone to walk up to them and be like, you're the one. But
Okay.
nobody's going to buy what you're not selling. Like
Yeah.
No. Right. And I think, well, you just describing that, does though, that's like the scary slippery slope
mhm.
to like inceldom, right? Like it's this idea that, I think there's a difference though, because you're sitting here and you go like, okay, either yes, you're struggling with a lot of these thoughts of not being worthy, and giving up on that factor. And to be honest, I think that's like a really valid situation where a lot of people sit in.
Mhm.
Like whether you see that as your interpretation of uh, no courage or no confidence or whatever that might be, but it's what you do that with that in yourself can really have a factor on how you perceive relationships. Like if that happens and then all of a sudden you become really bitter and spiteful and hateful, that's like
Mm-hmm.
a really scary place to be, and things don't turn out super well that way.
Nope.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if it's feeling of like lack of worthiness and stuff, here's my PSA, that you got to go talk to somebody, whether that's a therapist or a friend that you can really rely on and be vulnerable with, whatever it is, because those are really heavy thoughts. They're really dark thoughts. And for a lot of people, I think, who have a lot of confidence, they would see that as like a large weakness. But it's a struggle. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
fight. It's an internal fight that happens.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people who just say, well, you just need to go try. I'm like, thank you for that information. I'm very aware that if you don't play the game, you're not part of the game. I'm very aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a mental block that prevents people from having confidence to go do that.
Yeah.
My interpretation.
Yeah.
I think there's a very thin line between like I'm not worthy or I'm not ready yet to I will never be ready or I will never be worthy. Like
Yeah.
the line for that is much thinner than I think people realize, and then I think you get caught up in it. It's like
Oh,
if you don't work through those feelings, they never it never gets better.
Yeah.
oh, for sure. Like, but I'm just saying that that line gets crossed all the time for a lot of people,
Oh yeah.
and it shuts them down, right? Like it creates a space where you're not going to engage with any other people.
Well, and I think it goes. I think someone else might have been Hal. I forget who, but mentioned like as an adult too. The longer this goes on, the more that self-talk gets solidified. Not solidified per se, just gets loud, right?
Yeah.
Because you look.
Like you have like you know, your life, which is increasingly getting longer, that amount of time of proof,
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
the negative self-talk is real.
Mm.
yeah, yeah. That you've failed at some. You haven't checked the box soon enough, right? And that's taken from the negative self-talk side as evidence to prove the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, you haven't figured this out because you're not worthy. And because you're not worthy, you'll never figure it out, right? And it's just this endless cycle that keeps you in this headspace. But the idea that like you have to have figured it out is bullshit by a certain age. It's total bullshit,
Oh yeah.
right? It's delayed for a lot of different reasons for a lot of different people. For a lot of queer folks, it can be delayed, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of folks with neurodivergence, for a lot of folks, I don't know, who had trouble with past or rocky upbringings. There's a lot of reasons why it gets delayed. But this idea that you have to have figured it out by a certain time frame is total and utter bullshit. And I'll just say that flat out. Um, though I had to have that reinforced by my therapist, right? Because I brought to her all these conversations around like I feel like I'm failing at life, and she was like, failing by whose standard? And I didn't have one. I couldn't name one. Just like the standard,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. This weird like
Mm-hmm.
This
ethereal
nebulous
standard,
feeling.
yeah, that exists over all of our heads, where like by 26 you should have a partner, 2.3 kids, a house, white picket fence, red door, all that kind of stuff. By 33 they should be going off to college, whatever. The timelines are weird, but you should check all these boxes. You should
Mm-hmm.
have done all these things. Society shoulds all over us. um,
Well, I
and
don't think it's very nebulous. It's told to us constantly in lots
Well,
of things in
I
and
think it
around
just
us.
depends on
it's
your culture too.
yeah,
Well,
well,
for
it's
sure.
nebulous in that it's if you interrogate it, no one can really give you parameters, right? So if somebody says to you like, well, you should have had a partner by now, or you should have been married by now, it's like,
Mm.
why?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well,
Tell me,
it's
tell me,
interesting
give me
because
the exact age at which I should have been married, and tell me
yeah.
why that's better than
What is
not
the
being married
reasoning?
right now.
Tell me.
Yeah, please explain it to me. And people won't give you a reason. It's like when people say be a man. It's like, hey, how do I be a
Mm-hmm.
man?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well,
Well,
be a man. It's like, well,
yeah.
no, but I need some parameters here. And whenever you interrogate those social expectations, they crumble instantly,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right? And that holds true for anything I would
Mm-hmm.
posit, I would throw out there.
Oh, totally. But here's the thing, though, Joe. There are times when it's not so indefinable. Like for a lot of women in particular, it's you better have your babies before you're 35.
Yeah.
So it's a real timeline. It's not figurative. It's not
Geriatric pregnancy.
yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
it's you're sit there and you just say the timeline is this. You're married in your 20s and you have your children before you're 35.
Yeah.
It's a biological clock, fuckers. Let's go. Like
Numbers and
it's
shit.
those ovaries are gonna shrivel up and fuck
Yeah.
off at a certain
God,
point.
I wish.
So it's
But why do you need to have kids?
no,
Why do
but
you
that's
need to procreate?
correct.
And that's
So
why again I interrogate the social expectation. It's like you
yes,
must utilize this
indeed.
biological process that you have access to. It's like, well, why?
Yes. Well, and I think
What's wrong
the
with
three
not
of us
having?
here are on that same page.
Yeah.
There's a very strong why can't we analyze what this thing is that the society or our families or our networks are pressuring us to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
right? And with children, I mean, no,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. and we've had talks about this. I'm like, I might be with a partner who already has a kid. I will not be birthing a child. That is not
Nope, absolutely not. Terrifying.
absolutely not. But here's the thing though, that's another check mark against me as being less valuable as a person on the social standards of everything.
Yeah.
Which, to continue like on with reasons why dating as an adult are hard,
That's a good point. Yeah.
is the older you get, the more you have your life sort of set out for you in your head. Like, all right, these are my general goals. This is what I want for my body. This is what I want for my financial situation. And now, instead of just having someone agree that you are in general you have a good personality and you are attractive, they have to also agree that they want similar things for their life.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like that adds, like, the older you get, the more of those you have, like and all of the extra baggage you have from your life, because living creates baggage. Like it's so much more for a person to agree to than, say you're in your early 20s and you got your whole life ahead of you and whatever. Like you're just asking for someone to agree to a lot more stipulations to this thing that is you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, I think about the things that have been said directly to my face, right? And this is how we usually create the opinions around this specific topic. I remember when I was 17, that was specifically the time when people were really probably the heightened phase of my life where people were like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Right? And that's honestly when I had the highest pressure about behaving in a way that didn't make me feel very authentic. So it's just like, I've talked about this before online a little bit, but the one of my 2 dates that I've ever had was with a man, and it was a very, very nice person. But because up to that moment before he sent me an email being like, hey, can we go on a date? All I was hearing, the voice inside my head, was everyone around me being like, something's wrong with you if you don't do this. You're going to fuck up your life if you don't do this. There are going to be consequences if I don't do this. And that's why my response was like, sure. And then after that one date, which was just fine, but it induced like serious panic in my body. Like I was just like, I cannot be in this situation. How do I get out of it? I feel scared. I feel backed in a corner. I am like feral cat Kara. Let's go.
Take some eyes out.
Yeah, but it, for me at that point, that was also like, Kara, you're gay. So
you shouldn't be this afraid of another person for no reason.
Yeah, this wasn't fun, even though it's a nice person. So like the conditions of it should have been fine, but my whole body was like, something was not right. And I think because of that pressure, and until I came out, 3 or 4 years after that, I stopped getting that pressure from the closer network that I had. But throughout my 20s, from people who didn't know me very well, it was like hushed convo, like, oh, don't you have a partner yet? Don't you can bring them with us when we go places and things. A good one, Joe, I hope you're okay with me chatting about this one, but there was at a time when my grandfather thought Joe and I were married.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
well, and then we broke up. We got divorced when we moved out.
When we moved out, yeah. It was quite a thing because in my entire history, I never brought anyone over to see my grandparents. But there was that one time when Joe was hanging out with me and we were just around and I had to stop at my grandparents' place and Joe came in and hung out for a little bit. And like the first thing my grandfather does was, when did you get married? And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now in my life? This is no. I'm not out to my grandparents, so they don't get it, and they'll never know. But But yeah, it set up a precedent in my brain that was already compounded by like internalized homophobia, depression, all these other things that just became this like feeling of insurmountable shit to get over, to be like, I want to get to a place where I want to be around someone who I enjoy their company. I can be very open about how I feel about stuff, and they too are very open with me about stuff, and they like being around me and I like being around them. Like when I say it like that, it seems very simple. But there's so many other factors and variables that sit within that timeline, right? But yeah, like there's a lot of pressures that exist, and how much we let that affect us, I think, has to do with how much we have our own self-confidence in what's going on. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think everybody who goes into dating goes into it with like an amount of self-confidence, though. Like some people go into dating to combat loneliness.
Oh, sure. Des, I'm just saying my brain can't even fathom that. can't even that has never been a thought in my mind where I'm like, I'm lonely. I want another person around me to fix this for me, or to like remedy this a bit. Like that's never been a thought. And I think that has to do with just being so comfortable being alone. Like this is what I'm talking about, like a blessing and a curse thing, is just like independence to me is so comfortable. Like I can do everything in my life by myself and I don't blink at a second thought of it. But it's this realization that a lot of humans actually don't do that.
No. Turns out we're an incredibly social species.
Right. So
well,
it's foreign to me.
Well, as from like an anxiety perspective too, I'm the only one who's not confident. Everybody else is confident around me, right?
Oh, right.
So like again, that's the self-sabotage of anxiety, where it's like I have to measure up to the confidence that other people have, right? So if somebody I'm on a date with, I don't for a second think that they're not confident or that they're nervous or whatever, right? I am taking on their nervous energy, compounding with my own, and sabotaging who I am to sort of sabotage the overall experience, and then taking the full blame. Because that's what my anxiety is telling me, right? Is, well, that didn't go well because you are weird, right? When the other person is probably just as nervous, right? But I will say, though, I think gender socialization, if it's something that fits for you, you're able to navigate that, I think, a little bit easier than you
for
are
sure.
if you have some sort of like queerness or neurodivergence or whatever, because you can lean into the gender script a bit, you know, and have that take some of the pressure off of the exchange, you know?
Yeah, it took me so much longer to date a woman than it did for me to date men. Because dating men was easy. It's like you just like you looked over there and it's like, oh look, there's one, and it will date you.
Oh no.
And for a teen who didn't get enough hugs from their parents, attention and validation was basically love. That's fine.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah.
So like I started dating or like pursuing relationships in like an utterly unhealthy fashion. Like I'm lonely, I don't feel good, stuff at home sucks. I'm gonna get all my happy and all my dopamine from this other person. Because that's what I need. And didn't matter who it was. They just, they gave me the happy and the dopamine, and that was great. Even when they stopped giving me the happy and the dopamine, continued to be around, waiting for the happy and the dopamine to come back. It's not like it didn't come from like a place of, for me when I started, it didn't come from a place of self-confidence, but it also wasn't healthy. It came from a place of like needing that external, like, I love you. now, like, older and just having been through so many shit relationships, I'm fine with being alone. So now people have to compete with my desire to be alone
Mm-hmm.
to like get that extra time from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of the reason my current partner and I have worked so well is because we spent 4 years long distance. It's like, oh great, I have all this time to myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is nice. Whenever I see them, it's very planned. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
is ever surprise. Anxiety brain loves that.
Yep.
Yes.
Which I think
But
speaks
no.
to, like, as you get older and know yourself, you realize these things that you need. But I think it's hard to block out some of the noise from external sources that say you need to compromise the things that you need to achieve this goal. You know,
I
because
just
if
don't know
you're
how much
single,
I could
you're wrong.
tolerate another person in my space. That's like legit a concern. And I don't mean that in a very mean way. Like, obviously, if I was in a partnership with somebody, I would love that they're around. But I can't do that. I'm aware of the like constant cohabitating, codependency stuff. Like, I can't. I've already know it. I haven't even been there, but I know it. Like, it's just
Well, we lived together for 4 years, Kara. So
Yeah.
well, sorry, you all need to know that Joe and I actually got married.
hey, I
But
just
like,
said we
even
lived
when we
together,
lived
Kara.
together, Joe, we never cooked together. We barely did any sort of like chores or anything together. We pretty much existed in our own spaces. We played video games together, but that was about
Yeah,
it. Like, the divorce was ugly.
super ugly. Xander, we
It's
really
so
just got
ugly. We're
over it.
still doing therapy about
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
Fun
exactly. I
we
don't
fact:
know
really
how
just
we're
got
at
over
living
it.
it
Yeah,
right now.
LessThan3NPC is just like post-marriage counseling for them.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. We have a lawyer review the footage every time, just to make sure we're okay. Yeah.
I am a therapist. I am a
Yeah. But yeah, no, so it's just it's about, I think I agree very much. The older you get, the more you're realizing like what are the things that you want, what you don't want, having the confidence to communicate that to someone.
Hmm.
Um, I think a really interesting factor of becoming more self-aware about your own self-worth though is that you then don't look at someone who says, well, I can't accommodate that and you should feel bad about that, is
Hmm.
like slowly dissolves away.
Yeah.
So
I,
um
I just had a thought here, and like,
mm,
because you said have the confidence to know what you want. And I'm just thinking about, like, maybe just reframing it. And this is just my clearly my therapist talking here, but like, what if it's like not about confidence, but about being comfortable with the discomfort of being vulnerable, advocating for who you are, right?
mm,
And that, like, you, because there's discomfort that comes with vulnerability, but
mhm.
I think it's about being comfortable with that discomfort around having been vulnerable,
Mhm.
and how having approached or like put that vulnerability out there, right?
Because you're taking a risk of whether or not another person is going to approach that vulnerability appropriately.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily confidence per se, but it's about I'm comfortable in myself to the point where if the other person isn't interested in that aspect of who I am, it's not a like condemnation of who I am and who I've chosen to be, you know?
Oh,
So
sure.
if I get rejected by person X, it doesn't mean that I'm not a valuable person in and of myself. It just means
Mhm.
that I'm not who they want to connect with. You know? Does it make sense?
yeah. Like it like
Yeah.
incompatibility does not equal negative self-worth.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Right.
again, I think that's something that I'm trying to teach myself. I think that's something that is you have to learn. And I think people, again, queer folks, neurodivergent people that have had detached connections through their upbringing, I think we learn later in life, right? Just because we don't necessarily get that at the right correct. I don't know. Like, I'm using quotes for a lot of reasons. We don't get that at the correct stages that other people sort of take for granted, you know?
Well, and that's just it though. That's your every single human on this planet has a different path that they follow down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certain people have different hurdles that they have to approach. Some people are already at a disadvantage due to many different things. But the reality is like one of the most dynamic things as humans is when we say like we're going to find a partner or partners, and there's going to be some sort of dynamic that will then mesh together somehow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there are just some sensibilities, I think, that our culture, specifically I'm talking about where we live, which is North America, sees certain values or certain presentations of people as more attractive than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, people react to different experiences maybe in a little more of a biased way, right? Like it's you know, it's the ridiculous, oh, you don't do this until the third date, or you don't do this until you're officially coupled, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't do this until you're engaged, or whatever it might be. But the reality is just like for me, I'd be like, once I started getting comfortable with someone, I'd be like, here it is, here's the checklist, these are my insecurities, I need you not to talk about this. um, or whatever. These are the things that I like. I need you to tell me more about yourself than about me telling you about myself. Like
So,
that's the
so Kara, is your love language info dumping then?
Yes.
no though, because it's just like I say that, but I'm just like, how would I actually implement that? It would be like over 9 months. For sure. Like it would just be like little slivers. I'd be like, here's a post-it note about something really vulnerable in my life. We'll leave that in your jacket pocket and I hope you find it. And I hope that there's enough context on this tiny little post-it note to understand
Index
Why do
cards.
you have such tiny post-it notes?
Yeah.
like, but it's just yeah, index cards.
Yeah.
So it's navigating. Like, honestly, at this point, I don't even know. Like, I don't know. Where is my sugar mama who is just going to give me
He's out there
money?
waiting for you, Kara,
So
but you
Yeah.
refuse to date anybody, so you'll never know.
exactly. I just want to like travel the world on a motorcycle and she can phone me up wherever she is doing her high power job, and I'll be like, I am your boo. I will talk to you anytime you need. Here's a photo from beautiful places around the world. Can't wait to see you in Italy in 2 weeks. Let's go. Like this is my fantasy that I just told on the internet, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Did we talk? Wasn't it during your editing stream that you were like, if I win the lotto, and then like you had this whole thing, and then you were like, but I don't play the lotto.
Yeah. Oh no, it's the same
That's
thing.
what that is.
My lotto lady is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
For sure. Like
You just gotta
I'm
start playing the
very-
lotto.
Don't play the lotto.
but I don't play the lotto. Here's the thing. Like I am very much in the mindset. There's like first off, there's no such thing. I do not believe in there's the one for you.
No,
Mhm.
There's 4,000 combinations out there for you on the planet.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
It's
So
a
it's
hallmark
not like
lie.
a scarcity thing.
Yeah.
I think being queer is a little bit of a hurdle. Just because you're navigating some other dynamics there, but
Mhm.
you know, it's one of those things where you just I can't say that more than what you just said back to me. I want to win the lotto, but I don't play the lotto.
Hess, I think she'd have to have her own motorcycle.
She
come on the
doesn't
trip.
come with you on the motorcycle. I don't know, Hess. Like I'm opening the door. Maybe she's not a moto lady. You know, I can't force her to be a moto lady. I would support her in learning how to ride herself. Yeah, there's a thing about passengers I really don't like about motorcycles. That's a side realistic note, but theoretically, she is like
Metaphor, Kara. Metaphor. Let's stick with
metaphor.
the metaphor.
What is the metaphorical motorcycle in this?
Yeah.
What is the motorcycle?
Big engine, long drive time, lots of torque. Don't worry about it.
This is getting spicy, Kara.
I'm
Let's go with the
pretty good-
passenger
I'm-
thing.
Leave.
I'm a
I
really good
have to
operator.
leave.
Just put it out
Have
there.
a good night, everyone.
Don't clip
Oh my
that.
God, I'm dead.
Someone needs to clip that. Who's my mods? Do I have mods in chat right now? Sandra, can I make you a quick mod?
Des, don't tell the tribe. Don't tell the tribe. Please don't tell the tribe that I said that.
I won't. If they clip it, I won't have to.
It's all being recorded on Twitch. It'll be up on YouTube soon enough.
See, here's the thing. All of you went that way. I didn't. That was not me. I'm blaming both of you. Okay.
You started it.
I just threw it out there. I just asked you to keep it within the metaphor, Kara, and you just ran with it. So
Load.
Eric, that's a good question. Would I compromise for a sidecar for the sugar mommy? Maybe if it was a classic, if it was a retro.
Who says sugar mommy?
I mean, Eric did. I'm
Sugar
just reading the
mama.
comment. No, I don't know. I would feel I honestly I feel very financially stressed about relationships. Like I would for sure be like not in a position where if I couldn't contribute financially, I'd feel really bad. So I joke about a sugar mama, but
Yeah.
do
yeah,
I?
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. If you haven't been in that position, you really don't know. It is
I
kind
don't
of
know.
nice to
I
have
don't
somebody
know.
else
I
pay
have
for
no-
things for you.
Yeah.
I
Just let me make
I'd be
my
on board with it. Just saying, just throwing it out
idea. Thank you. Thank you, darling.
there. Yeah.
I don't know
Getting
why
a
I
sugar
pretend
mama
like
makes you
somehow I'm British in a lot of these like fantasies across the world.
It's a defense
You're
mechanism.
I just want to be international, you know. I dream like I want my
Kara lives
Norwegian
in an
wife to
episode of
take, you know,
Bridgerton.
me on big trips. Huh?
Kara lives in an episode of Bridgerton.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. No, please no. Although I will admit one of my favorite love stories, and I call it a love story, is Pride and Prejudice. I will watch that movie nonstop. I don't know why. I love it though.
I think I've seen it.
You've never seen Pride and Prejudice, the Joe Wright
think I've seen-
version
I think I've
with
seen-
Keira Knightley?
I think I've seen portions of it. I don't know that I've ever seen the whole thing.
Right.
I've
Is
seen
that
it.
Mr. Darcy?
It's not my
Mr.
thing.
Darcy. Yes.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Darcy.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a strong tangent. We can
I
really
think I
come
was
back.
I think I was just so mentally like earthquaked by that
Creating a
whole
visualization of what the metaphor of a motorcycle is. I don't know.
I forgot what we were talking about. Dating. Dating as an
Yeah.
adult. That's
Dating
hard.
Adults.
How do we do it? You do it by doing it.
Yeah.
It's
You gotta
just
play
one
the
of
lotto.
those things. There's
You gotta
no
ride the
book.
motorcycle.
People like to exert control by putting arbitrary rules on dating.
Oh, sure.
They
I can
don't
understand
exist.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like there's no there's like sort of normal social rules. Like, maybe check in with the other person that they're feeling the same level of feelings that you're feeling before you declare your love to them. Like that's like, that's like more of a social rule than like a dating rule. It's
Mhm.
not like you can't have sex until the third date. You have to say I love you within the first year. You have to get engaged in the second year. Whatever. Like, it's not like that. All of that shit is arbitrary and stupid.
Just gonna take some notes. Can you run that through me again?
I got another
So-
post-it note. Don't worry about it. I'm
Okay.
adding
Thanks,
to the
Kara.
collection.
It's someone
important.
desperate for direction.
Joe, the book that we never got as teenagers, we're getting it now.
I know.
This
This
is
is the
great.
checklist. This is
so
the memo
glad.
that we missed.
What is this episode?
I am learning so much tonight.
Yeah.
It's slightly overwhelming.
I'm saying that doesn't matter. Just like
Right. Well, here's a
Des,
thought.
you're realizing
then.
how desperate Kara and I are for the memo, for the details.
Do I
and
need
how
to
the
do
fuck
like
we
a
do this.
Dear Abby segment of like, nerds, how do you date?
Yeah.
Nerds, this is how you date.
Okay, you joke about that, but that actually might be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
This is not like as a experienced dater, like this is what the titling that I will give you because of this. I think you might have forgotten that some of us do need some help. That there
We need
is
so much help.
guidance that can be useful for things like this.
I'm a real traditionalist on this. I really feel like you gotta like really screw up so many times on your own. Like I feel like nobody taught me shit. Like I nobody paid for my student loans.
Right.
Like
Right. Interesting. Okay.
no.
How do you feel about percolating emotions so bad that it just becomes an outburst? No. See, there are basic things that should be told to other people to help them. Do you know
I
what I
think
mean?
a lot of that has to do with just like how to relate with people in general. I think one of the reasons I also don't find dating that hard is because the difference between my friendships, and usually the only difference between my friendships and my relationships, is sex. Like passing a certain physical barrier. Because I am as vulnerable with my friends, or sometimes even more vulnerable with my friends than I am with my partner. Like I trust
Joe,
them, longevity.
Be vulnerable.
Oh, I already got that one. Yeah.
I
came up
at
earlier
the top
in
of the
chat.
list this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
See, Eric is saying, please list more of these rules, Des. This is in high demand conversation. I'm not being like, I know that I sound a little bit sarcastic, but like, no, legit. Like some of us need to have some guidance.
This was the plan all along. This is why we secretly maneuvered to orchestrate this particular talk, is because we were so desperate for the rules.
Yes. Professional daters,
Yeah.
help us. And by professional daters, I mean people who have dated before.
And I am now offering, as part of my consulting
workshop.
fees, I'm offering a Tinder coaching. So I will help you make your Tinder profile, and I will help you talk to strangers online.
I think that would be a fun YouTube video to do. Kara's first Tinder profile. That would be great. Hilarious.
I think that's come up before. I think we were talking about the because Zandra was going to make you some forms to send out. When you do match with somebody and stuff
that
like
over.
that.
Yeah. All the photos will just be Malaya.
That's a red flag, Kara.
I know.
That's such a red flag.
It'll be like mostly Malaya and then like a quarter of my eye. It'll be like holding Malaya like this, like that. See? Point number 2. Don't put your pets in as your major dating profile photos.
Or at least be in the picture with your pets where your face is visible.
Not allowed.
I mean, if we just want to do some fast facts about making an online dating profile,
I don't know about that. That's
I could do a whole episode on that.
I don't know. Inter's also asking, eating these rules up for dating.
2.
I don't know, Des. I think you're the one who's out of the loop here in this particular chat zone. So I'm just saying. But here's the thing also too, as someone who would like do not very well being in like approached by someone who would ask dates of me, I don't do well with that. Like I know for a fact that if I ever were to go ask like a specific lady for a date, I would have to go do it. Like I would have to approach.
Oh yeah.
No, the 2 relationships I've been in, I've been approached. Yeah. And then the near miss I had, and this just goes back to like self-worth, I guess, but like the near miss I had with a relationship, they sent me this really long text message being they're non-binary as well. And it was so well crafted and so considerate and like trauma informed. Had all this like, hey, it's okay if you don't feel this way. I just want to put this out there because it's the way I'm feeling. I had to fully like, because I got the text on the way home from work. I had to like fully sit down in the grass randomly on the side of the pathway, um, to like formulate my response. Like it was so debilitating to get this particular message, not in a bad way, but it was just so like, oh shit, this person that I'm attracted to is also attracted to me, and they're
Mhm.
expressing that. I need to sit down because I'm going to pass out. So like, I that's the other thing I need to regulate is that when somebody's interested in me, I don't know how to respond. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Oh, I've had some weird instances like that. I've had some really weird shit said to my face because of that. Um, I remember one person who was trying to talk to me about stuff, and she was just like, and I was like, yeah, yeah, in this like weird moment of vulnerability, I was like, yeah, I don't date, don't really date, never date, do, and it like kind of like came out like that, and she like looked at me in the face, and she was like, how's that even possible? And I was like, ugh. Like, and I heard that and I was just like, all the interpretation, I know she probably didn't mean to say it like this, but my brain interpreted it as, Kara, you're a fucking weirdo.
mm-hmm.
Right. Here we are again.
Right.
Let's
When the positive interpretation of that is they were aghast because you are cute and attractive and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the
So
brain
how have you not dated?
synapses doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I was lucky too that like the person that texted me was again presenting it in this very, I think, queer appropriate way, and it gave me all these options to like respond or not respond or whatever. Um, but I don't know how I handle that stuff in person, you know, because the other two instances were in university where there was much less for me to know myself, I guess. But this later one came as I was older and had much more knowledge about who I am, and I'm less capable as I get older of handling that interest, you know.
Mm. I just want to take a minute to talk about Xander's comment here. Xander, here's the thing. If you're not interested in a relationship, I have the perspective of there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
If
absolutely.
you're comfy with yourself and
Yeah.
your life situation and what you got going on, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Continue that thing.
Totally. And the only reason why I am curious about a relationship is because I think about it.
Yeah.
On a reg. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was something I was talking to Joe with the other day, was like the reality that I think about a potential future and what I would want out of that and all these other things is a sign to me that that would be something I would be curious about enough to seek out.
Mhm.
Right? If it's a thought that doesn't occupy your life very often, so
Great.
be it. Like there's nothing devaluing you as a person because of that.
Yeah.
But society likes to be shitty about that shit.
It does,
So.
and it does, and this is like perfect opportunity to plug
Oh yes,
the
we
concept
segue.
of quirky alone,
Oh,
and this is
that.
something I've
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
before. So I'm just gonna pop it in chat here. Quirky alone was a concept come up, sort of developed by an author, Sasha Kogan. I believe that's how you say her
Mm-hmm.
name. Um, So the book is Quirky Alone, a manifesto for uncompromising romantics. And Quirky Alone is basically resisting the societal pressure of relationship equals fixed or good, right? So that if you're single and fine with it, then there's something wrong with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of Quirky Alone is you're not going to date for dating's sake, right? Because there's a lot of pressure out there that you should just go on dates. Just be on dates on a regular basis, have them scheduled, have them in the calendar. They're not always going to go well. They're not always, there's some are going to be fun, some are going to be shitty, but just always have dates and always have that on the horizon. And if you don't want that, or you don't set that up, then there's something wrong with you. And quirky alone is resisting that societal pressure and just saying, no, I'm okay to be alone. The caveat being the quirky alone is kind of like a hyper romantic in that they do want a relationship. They really want that connection, but they don't feel that they should have to compromise their standards, I guess. And this came up earlier in chat around what they're looking for from that dynamic. So if they do have something in mind of what they want from a partner, and don't waver from that and remain alone, that the idea is that, well, that's still fine. That if they haven't encountered somebody who meets the standards that they've set out for a relationship, then they're not going to date, right? They're not going to find somebody to fill that void or to compromise on those standards. And again, it's not to say that somebody who dates whatever is compromising on their standards. It's just there's this idea that the longer you go being single, the more you need to sacrifice who you are to be in a relationship, because being in a couple dynamic is better than being alone, right? So the longer you go, the more imperative it is that you sacrifice who you are to be in a relationship. And quirky alone is just like, well, I'll just be alone then, and just accepting that. So. Is that a bot? That feels like
I'm
a
trying to
bot.
get rid of it.
Okay.
Hold on.
Kara's my bot, my mod.
I'm trying. How do I?
Are you not a mod?
In message reply. No. How come?
I
I'm
can do
in mod mode. It won't let me change it. Does.
What? I'm on my phone. I don't know what you want from me.
Uh-oh.
I also don't know if I'm on. Yes. I mean, I think that's a good, like, that is to me like the positive side of something very negative, because there are people who are like, fuck society, I'm not gonna be in a relationship, like,
Mhm.
whatever, like, and then they're just like self-defeating and gross about it,
Yeah.
like through like trauma, like in rejection, like that's the bad side of it. This seems like the good side of it, where it's like, I'm fine being by myself. If I find someone who fits in with the life that I am happy leading, then that's great. If I don't, also fine.
Ejected. Bam.
Good job. Killed it.
Killed it. Yeah, a fairly common phrasing that I've heard a lot in my life, and I know it just comes from other people's either insecurities or codependencies in their own relationships, is just, you'll hear things that are like, I can't think of anything worse than being alone for the rest of my life.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Right? And you sit there and you go, are you saying this because you yourself are concerned about your future? Or are you concerned about how you would personally feel about a future, but it's actually my life that you're commenting on?
Yeah.
But it feels harmful, like hurtful, like it feels hurtful, because it's basically this person who is either like in your life, in your network or whatever, and they're making a side comment about what your current circumstances are.
Mhm.
Right? This idea that we would, whether or not you go months or years or decades without then finding a partner, it's like this compounding failure as a person.
Mhm.
And that can be really hurtful to people. And I think that's a garbage take, first off. People find networks, people find chosen family, people find different ways to connect with other humans in the ways that they feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And that doesn't stop just because you're getting older.
Yeah.
And there's different variables in it. But like, if I'm by myself when I'm 75, I would love to think that I still have like a moto fam who I like still ride motorcycles with.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
One of my other close friends, we've years ago established that we're stuck with each other, and
Mm.
we've promised that when we're 75 or whatever, in rocking chairs with trying to find our teeth, that we're still watching reruns of The Office or horror movies or something like that, right? So like, not that, you know, I'm using friendship as this weird surrogate for romantic partnerships, but like my three closest friends, Kara's one of them, like I get a lot out of them, you know? Like, it's friendships are underrated. They are very
Yeah,
much
friendships are
underrated.
super underrated.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, even if I didn't have my current partner, I would be fine with being single because
Mhm.
if I anything that I could get out of a relationship, I can also get from my friends. Up with some of them up to and including sex. Like
Yeah.
it's just the kind of friend group that I'm in.
Yep.
Like we're just a lot of very intense people who share all of our shit together.
But saying that though, Des, it makes a match. You know what I mean? Like you've seeked each other out to the point where
Oh
you're
yeah.
comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so hard when I think you get in the place where either society punches you down so many times that you start believing that there is no other way to be. Like that's a shitty place to be. That
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
we
not
gotta
gonna
we
happen.
gotta work on that. If
Yeah.
that's
It is a
the
shitty place
thought.
to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Sorry.
about countering those voices that are coming at you because they're not true. They're not right.
No.
Um, you know, there's one of the most interesting things that I found is like having more vulnerable conversations with folks is just realizing that people are more accommodating than you may perceive them to be sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, where something that you would think would be one of your biggest faults, this is coming around to what we were talking about at the beginning, like in terms of how you would want to be perceived as a partner, might be a huge plus for someone else,
Mhm.
right?
The conversation earlier about like self-worth or self-value
Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's just navigating the reality that I can't remember. This was a Tumblr post like a decade ago, but I think a good portion of it was really true. Was like we are never our own. What was it? I'm gonna butcher it. It was something like we are never our own type. Like we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I
You know what
remember
I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
Like we're.
I think I reblogged that from you, Kara.
Oh, I'm sure. Maybe that's how that landed on my page. But it's always really hard to see it from the outside when society has either told there's something wrong with you or you're not compatible or whatever it might be. You were bullied a lot when you were younger about something. I have to thank the Catholic Church for a lot of my shit.
Woo, Catholic Church. Shout
Cool.
out.
But it's navigating things that can make a congruent like stepping stone path to something. You know, it's always hard when you're on your tiny little island and you're just like, oh boy, I'm gonna make this island super comfy because this is where I'm gonna be for a long time. And not really knowing that there's like a bunch of ships that are going by or around you
Mhm.
and they're like, oh, what's going on over there? And you're just like, ah, my island. Stay away from my island. I don't know where this metaphor is going at all.
So in this metaphor, Kara is the tribe that has never seen another human outside the island, and throws the javelins at the airplanes when they go.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Not exactly what I was trying to depict, but that's where we went.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That was the only thing I can think of when you were like, get away from my island.
yeah, I
Like
don't know.
tapping someone.
Like I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about like the inner younger Kara who was just like from 14 to 18 or 19 and just absolutely being petrified of the idea of like I'll share a story. When I was about 16 years old, I went to go visit my aunt and uncle who lived out in a small town in BC called Invermere. And a person who was working at my aunt and uncle's shop worked at the sexual health center for the district. there. So like she did volunteer hours there. So she was very, very sex positive, very like relationships and let's talk about all this good stuff. And, you know, very scared Kara got in this conversation where this woman basically just like leaned over the counter and was just like, Kara, do you have a boyfriend at all? And I'm like, no. And then she's like, how about a girlfriend? And like very honestly, and no judgment, it was the first time I ever heard it in my life. And I panicked. I literally like probably the blood from my head left my body. And I was like, no. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm just like running away. Like I physically ran out of the room. Huh?
You girls.
You girls, when it's actually like, oh my God, girls. So it's just like, you know, it's one of those things where there's reasons why I've had challenges making connections with people. I don't want to deny those things, but it is important to recognize sometimes we are in our own way.
Yeah.
To approach that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's interesting as I'm getting older and able to have these like reflective moments of my childhood and my young adult years. It's just mostly been me. Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm going to be a void for the rest of this episode. I don't know why the battery died. Don't worry about it. I'm on my island.
No, just quick interlude. Goki said, "So are you all aware that that island actually exists?" Right? Yes, that was the reference I was making. That island of people who had never seen like another person outside of their tribe, and then shot all the airplanes down. Yes, I do know that's a thing.
I did appreciate, Goki, your answer to who's going to take care of you when you're older. Nobody. I'm going to die like everyone else. We all die alone.
Walk into the woods.
Yeah.
Let the animals have me.
Yeah. But Laronbot, I don't know. I don't know if it's an
That's
Iron
Eric.
L. Had a question. How do you make friends as an adult? How's that process been? While we wait for Kara to fix her camera.
Oh, it's not going to get fixed. There's no way. It's dead. I wasn't lying. I'm going to be a void for the rest of the episode.
I love this. This is great. We get to imagine what your facial expressions would be like. This will be very interesting for the YouTube video.
Yeah.
How do you make friends as an adult? Well, I can tell you how I made friends as an adult. I continued to do the things that I like. AKA I've been LARPing since I was a teenager, so I continue to LARP and I continue to meet people through that. Second thing is that I follow my passions. I find a thing that I like to do and I pursue it, whether or not it's related to work or whatever. Like the only reason I'm even in the current friend group that I'm in is because I found out that there was an education facility in my city that worked with high content wolf dogs, and I really, really, really wanted to work with wolves. And so I badgered the people that like ran the facility until they let me work with them, and then I became friends with them. And then I became friends with all the other people that were friends with them, who were all artists and weirdos like I was, passionate about a thing that was niche and wasn't ever going to make anybody any money ever. And then I got a job through there, and like I continued to be at that job because I was passionate about the work that I was doing there, and I've met all of my subsequent friends through doing that. Like, and all of it came out of like, this is a thing that I want. This is a thing I think that's important. It's not going to make me any money. I don't give a fuck. I'm passionate about it. I want to go help wolves.
And I'd say, just to add on to that, try and follow your intuition. I think one of the closest friends that I've made, again, one of the big three. I don't have a best friend because I don't like hierarchies. I have three close friends, chosen family, I think of them. And one of them in particular, it was a bit of a slow burn, sort of as far as friendships go, but very much an emotional twin, I think. And we've talked about this to each other where we're just like on an emotional level, we're very similar. We have similar mental health issues, which helps form that connection. But at the same time, it was just like there was something about this person that I'm like, this person's. I feel connected to this person on an intuitive level. So I think you can kind of feel that. Be open to it when you do feel that kind of connection, and pursue it where like as it's appropriate. So again, it was a slow burn because we're both like shy introverts, right? So it wasn't going to be something that burst onto the thing. We're going to become fast friends instantly. We had similar interests, and now it's kind of like solidified in something where, yeah, again, this is the person that we were like, we're going to be 75 and sitting in rocking chairs, watching old reruns of The Office kind of thing, or watching horror movies because that's what we do. We watch horror movies together. But I think pay attention to what your intuition is telling you about another person. And if you see another person that you're interested in, not from a romantic perspective, but just like this person's interesting, lean into it a little bit, I think, and try and match and help that develop organically. But it only develops organically based on what Des is saying. Like, you need to be who you are, and they need to be who they are, and you find that connection. It's something that can't be forced.
Yeah.
Romantically, platonically, none of it can be forced. It only really happens, and again, I think about this person in particular, because I was who I am, and they are who they are, and it just grew naturally. Yeah. It helped that we both like dogs. I don't know if that helps people either.
Yeah, get a pet. That's also a huge piece of advice if you're trying to get a friend and or a date. Get a pet.
Mm-hmm.
People love to talk about animals. Write that one down, Kara. I can't see you, so I'm not sure if you're writing it down or not.
I am.
Okay, very good.
I go on too many adventures though. I can't have a cat. I can't do it.
Get a pet.
Well, Kara, the cat is the one you can go on adventures with, or leave at home to go on adventures. Especially if you get an older one. Kara, adopt an elderly cat who's going to be just fine with you being gone for like 3
Can't
or
I
4 days
just
at a time.
leave post-it notes to people that I like in their pockets?
I mean, you can do that too.
Yep, like tiny hands.
Fuck no. Absolutely not. Nope. 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 Nope.
Tiny hands is how we tell Kara that we love her.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's real.
Yep.
No.
Tiny hands is how you make friends. No, sorry. Tiny hands is how you keep friends.
Nope.
You make friends by working on them, working with them on
Yeah.
a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
You
trying to think
keep
if I
them.
can add anything to that concept of like how do you make friends as an adult? Um,
Well, Fudgy's go here, but you're very selective. It's not problematic to be selective. Don't kind of, if you got standards or you, I think my one caveat would be like, don't create a fantasy version of the friend and then measure the real person to the fantasy. Accept a human being for who they are, that they're gonna not match all of what you want, but know what you want out of that person.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna be selective, be selective. That's
mhm.
if somebody doesn't meet your standards, then fuck it. Like, don't compromise who you are to, I don't know, make space for somebody who's draining.
Yeah, and like also be just okay with different levels of friendship.
Yeah.
Like I don't just have the people that I would like divulge my life story to in my life. I have friends that I'm like way more casual with that I'll contact every once in a while, or like, we share this one thing in common, so maybe we talk 5 times a year. Like, my friendship with Naraku is very different from my friendship than with Kara, and even more different than my friendship with Jackie. Like, it's like time, distance, like the amount of stuff you have in common, the like amount of time either party has to dedicate to a friendship, because friendships require maintenance just like any other relationship.
Yep.
They require energy and time and trust and all that jazz. But like, you can just have varying levels of friend. and that's
Mhm.
fine too.
Totally. Well, okay. I think the only thing I can add for this is because of a recent thing that I've gone through, and I've talked to Joe with this a bunch lately, um, is knowing that letting people go to make space for new friends is also an okay thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I recently have gotten to a point with a friend that I had from many, many years back, and just there's no more communication. There's no replying to anything. It's just dissolved. And it's been a real challenge for me to process this one, because that friendship has been a part of my life for so long, and I always really, really cared about her. Um, but I have to recognize, like, she doesn't live in the same city that I do anymore. We have less and less in common. We're both pretty solid introverts, and we don't talk a lot. And it just got to a point where I think it splinters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm going to go through a period here where I'm going to be emotionally affected by it,
Mm-hmm.
I do need to then say, okay, um, I can't force anything. So goes back to what Joe said. It has to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So if the friendship doesn't vibe anymore, the friendship doesn't vibe anymore. Like you
Yeah.
can't make that space for it. So always be open to finding people that do fit into your network again. Um, and life changes. You change. We as
Mm-hmm.
individuals change. We have different interests, or we think of things differently now because of different life experiences. We move, we find love, we find hatred. There's like a whole dynamic of things that can happen that changes who we associate with
Mm-hmm.
on a
Yeah.
reg you know
Say it again for the people in the back. Incompatibility is not failure.
Correct. Yeah. So it's if I'm trying to think of, like, okay, if I'm trying to find a new friend in my current state right now, for
Mm-hmm.
me, I think about the accessibility that I have to people, and that's mostly through work.
Yeah.
I get on film sets, which usually have a lot of people on them. I definitely don't like every single person I go on a film set with, because that's what I find in people. I got to
Yeah.
find my nerds. They're pretty easy to find, to be honest. But yeah, it's about navigating a space of, like, knowing how much capacity you have to
Mm-hmm.
bring in new people into your life and cultivate that relationship, like Des was saying. you
Yeah.
know um there's relationships that you can always say, like, yeah, we talk once every 4 months, and that's all it is, and it's still good because
Yeah.
it seems like both parties are happy with that. Whereas there's people who are just like, if you didn't send me a meme today, we're not friends anymore. So, like, you know
That's the deal breaker, though. Sorry, Kara. Like, if somebody doesn't send me a meme and we have a dynamic going on, and they
right,
haven't,
what is friendship?
no, I'm
What
kidding.
even
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Honestly,
Well, no.
I've broken up with friends because they sent me too many memes.
Oh,
Friend breakup.
there's an
Yeah.
oversaturation of memeage.
Yeah. Well, if you're
Classic.
just sending me memes and you're never talking to me, are we having a conversation? The answer is
That's
no.
also true. What about
Yeah.
replying to things that you say in memes?
Well, somebody has to be talking.
Okay.
No, I was years ago exposed to the concept of soul contracts, and I
Sorry,
probably
what?
Sorry,
That
soul.
what?
sounds like the underworld something something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that seems
Well,
like a
and
dare PG thing.
it's either a therapy thing or an appropriated cultural thing. So I don't put too much stock in the concept, but I liked what it was presenting, where it's like the state of mind it was sort of presenting, where it's like people are in your life for not a predetermined amount of time, but a set amount of time, and that things come to a natural end, and that when that end comes, it's not about agonizing over it ending. It's about being mindful of what that relationship brought to you when it was in your life, right? And so, I think of friends that we've fizzled out. There was no friend breakup or solid parting or whatever. We just fizzled. And when I think about those friendships, it's like, yeah, it's kind of sucks that we don't talk anymore. But at the same time, it's better for me from a mental health perspective just to look at it like, actually, this person was in my life for this period of time, and this is what I got out of it. And it was a really positive experience. So I'm not going to sour the positive experience with some sort of like regrets or frustration that it ended, because I think everything ends one way or another. And people go their separate ways. And I think it's, again, I'm coaching myself here. It's important not to get hung up on that something ended, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to bring it on back, I think that is also a factor in why people choose not to date.
Mhm.
Because that is a thing that it either works until you're dead or it has to end. And people are terrified of breakups.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, nope. And there's a possibility that I will have to have a conflict with them in the future if this doesn't go perfectly. Nah, gonna save myself the trouble.
Yeah. So I'm just
Okay, I
getting
think
caught up
we're
on getting caught up on chat here.
yeah, me too.
Well, contracts are in chapter 7 of the Dungeon Master Manual. Yeah,
Yes.
probably. Second,
It's
third
third
edition?
edition.
Third edition, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there stats around it? Are there initiative rolls? 'Cause I would also
Yeah.
need to know this for future dating reference.
FYI, Des, I'm on episode 40 of Critical Role. I've basically almost caught up. I don't know how I've done it, but I almost have. So
Sadra loves conflict.
We'll have to talk later.
okay.
Also, Xandra, I love you.
Was this it?
Xandra
Also not my fear. I love
is my soul
conflict.
creature. Also not my fear. I love conflict.
Yes,
And I
Goki. So
love
some memes are good. Lots of memes are bad. Well, not for me. I do appreciate lots of memes. I think if it's one-sided memes, if I'm only sending memes and I'm not getting memes back, we're not.
No.
Something's wrong here.
That's why the Discord, the meme channel in our Discord is perfect. Because it's just like for those who need to access memes in a day can go there.
Yeah. No.
It's-
I need my memeage to be reciprocal. That's
equal
it's-
memeage.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, we're getting too far into this whole everyone's fine with conflict situation. Okay, let me be very clear about this. Because, yes, clearing the air is very important. I agree. But we need to define what conflict is. Okay?
Mhm.
Yelling and screaming at one another is not good conflict. Okay?
No.
There's okay to be opposing sides and having difference of opinions, but we need to be clear that this is not accelerated to magnitude 9.9.
To be fair,
Sometimes.
they didn't say they approved conflict. They said they didn't fear conflict.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I
That's
would
different.
also be in that bucket then a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. If there's an issue, then we need to talk about it. Because I hate
I'm just sensing a conflict developing here.
Oh
and
God,
I
don't
need
do
to-
that though, Joe. Oh,
my inner lesbian comes out, and we have to talk about it, and then we have to have a secondary meeting because we need to go. I need to talk about us talking about it
Okay.
because the way we talked about it needs to be examined.
Lesbos
then,
was
like,
very
6 months
wise.
later-
Des. Okay, we all have a big name to approach. So be
Well,
warned.
this was somewhat. You laugh about it, but like this was. I got to go back to my like near miss with a relationship. This was some of the like caveating and like trauma informed ways that this person was texting me about like being interested in me. That was like, this is very
Yeah.
validating, right? I need to date non-binary people, or at least people that are a little bit gay, because like
Yes.
there's
That's
something
the
about
gayest thing
queerness
I've
that
ever
like
heard.
we have to explain things in a really like offering things on a platter. Like that's the way I want to explain it, right? We offer things on a platter. Here's where we at, and we're going to talk about talking about it. you know?
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. That again, I've realized something about myself today as well. I need somebody who's interested in something, passionate about something, and they need to be queer in some capacity,
Mhm.
I think.
Or at least in like in the queer socialization. Like I
Yeah,
know
they
straight
get the
people
newsletter,
who were
you know?
raised by queer people and
Yeah,
like they get it.
yeah. They get the newsletter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. I learned something today.
You can't see, but I'm holding my pen like a mustache.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you to like every couple of minutes just like let us
You
know
need to
audibly.
describe your physical presence, you know?
I mean, I can describe my office quite well. I have lots going on in here.
No, no, you. We want to know
You
about
as
you,
as a
Kara.
person.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about that. Have you found form A499.6 yet and filled that out and submitted it to my document
It
holder,
wasn't
Xandra?
it
See,
wasn't notarized, so
yeah, I
we couldn't
happen
sign
to
it.
know that I don't have to fill out any forms if it's on a technical difficulty on your end.
I don't know
You
about
have to
that.
fill out forms now.
I think there's a whole hierarchy of friendship levels, and love
Yeah.
is only quantifiable by how much you offer to another human being, and that dating is the only way to full self-fulfillment and getting you to the gates of heaven through the Catholic Church. You're welcome.
That was like a 1980s like hair metal ballad, I think, right there.
You're
Just
welcome.
without
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
music.
All
Yeah.
the while,
or like an 80s slam poem.
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Group of opposite ventures.
This has been like the most chaotic episode I think we've
I
had in a
know, I love
while.
it. Yeah.
Thank you,
can
Xander.
tell
Yes, I gotta go get a PO box though. How about that?
walk in the snow to go get a pee.
Oh my god, it's like minus 25 right now. It is fucking
Mhm.
cold.
It's like 50. Oh, I don't know what that is in
50
real
would
math.
still be like 10
Reasonable.
degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's like
50's still
50 in
reasonable.
Ohio. We're
Yeah.
fine.
No, we're
I'd
minus
take 50.
22 or 23 Celsius right now.
Yeah.
That sounds
So it's
terrible.
yeah, it's not great. It's not a fun
Yeah.
temp. So
Every time I think about moving to Canada.
well,
Yeah.
you've talked
Don't.
about moving to Canada and moving to Vancouver. It's not that bad there.
I haven't thought about moving to Vancouver. Why would I want to move to Vancouver? A, it's expensive, and B, the wolves are by you guys.
Oh, that's also true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways, it is 9 o'clock.
We should open for questions. If anyone has, this is the time.
this is the time you can talk to a sexpert.
Yeah, a time to talk to a sexpert, a non-sexpert, and someone in the middle.
Kara's in the middle. What are you saying,
No,
Kara?
I'm not
I
in-
take offense to that.
I ain't ever gonna be in the middle. I'm on the motorcycle. I'm in control.
That's still pretty spicy, Kara.
That's gonna be. I can't wait to go back and clip that. I'm
Yeah,
so stoked.
you're the one in control.
I'm gonna make that my new ringtone.
Yeah.
Hey!
You know, you were booted out of being my ringtone for a while.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I
But
can't.
now I'm gonna get that,
Oh,
and it's going right back.
yeah. What was it? The DP thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't give anybody any context.
Yeah.
No.
Questions.
Don't worry
No.
about it. It's just a DP thing.
It's
Yeah.
just
It's a DP thing.
Okay. Oh, okay. We have one question here from Midnight. So, what would you say about a person with definite shyness? Okay.
to help them out.
So, shyness is different than being like to yourself or independent or whatever these other things. Like, shyness, by definition, I believe, is more of a awkwardness or discomfort with the perception of how you behave around people. Are we on the same page? Midnight.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
like
I think
because
we have
like
for midnight to define.
Yeah, because like introversion like feels to me like, oh, this is just how I am. It's like whether or not
Yeah.
you're okay with it really doesn't matter.
That's why I just want to clarify with Midnight, like that we have the same definition happening here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to me, being shy is like wanting extra human interaction and not being able to like work themselves up to try to get it.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. I think shyness relates to a discomfort around vulnerability, and I'm only speaking for myself here. Um, I don't externalize a lot of stuff because I'm worried about being perceived.
Des is also in the void. We're slowly gonna just all disappear.
I can do that too. I got that.
Do it. Yeah.
Yes. This is truly 2 NPC After Dark.
There. I'm kind of half. No. I think it's for me, the shyness comes from a discomfort around vulnerability. I think being who I am, but I also don't know who I am either, right? So I think that's part of it. I think for people who have that perceived confidence, again, I don't really believe confidence is a thing now that we're talking about it. I think there's a comfort with the discomfort of being vulnerable that people have or learn. Um, and so I think it's about knowing, I mean, sort of set in who you are enough that other people's response doesn't impact that, right? So again, being shy is like, I don't know how people are going to respond. To combat that, I think it's like being okay with that uncertainty. I don't know.
I don't know. I would mildly disagree with that because I don't think you need to be okay with being vulnerable to your with like yourself or like be yourself to
Mhm.
not be shy. Because I know a lot of not shy fake people who would not say a damn thing about themselves, but who have
Mhm.
created this persona that is just like out there and
Yeah.
doing shit. Like, yeah, yeah. I think,
But are they not shy if it's a persona though?
yeah. I mean, they're like outgoing, reaching out to people, doing shit, but
Yeah.
like, maybe not doing it honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. How to help someone being shy? I don't know. I'm
Honestly,
trying
go
to think if I'm shy. I don't think I'm
to
shy.
therapy.
I
I
would say
think
just try to latch on to a person who doesn't see your shyness as a negative.
Yeah.
well, and again, I said go to therapy. I don't mean that
Well,
tongue in
yeah, go to
cheek.
therapy.
I think
Our answer to
not that
everything is go
not
to
that
therapy.
therapy is yeah, everybody needs to go to therapy, but
Well,
not that
no, but
shyness is
therapy is
something to
about
be
learning how to
fixed.
talk,
But
right?
it's yeah, it's not about being fixed, but it is about learning what's getting in your own way, right? And we've talked about it before on stream, in this stream in particular, that some of the time we are in our own way. And I think until you realize how you're in your own way, it's going to be something that's going to be hard to sort of address, right? So a therapist is good because they're not somebody who's in your inner circle, and they can be objective in a way that a friend or a family member can't. Um, so if it's something you can't get a handle on yourself, then it's a good thing to have that perspective. And they're really good at, if again, finding a therapist is a lot like dating. So this might be a mixed advice. Like you do have to shop around basically like you would dating, for a good therapist. But if you find a good therapist you're connected with, they will challenge you in nice ways, not in nice ways, but they will challenge you in ways that are good for you in the long run, because they're going to call you on your bullshit, your comfort self-talk that keeps you small. They'll challenge you on that. I know mine does. She calls me out on a lot of shit, and yeah, it's not fun. Well, it is fun in a way because I get to reinvent myself, but like
It's sort of like
it's
exercise. It doesn't feel good in the moment, but like afterwards, you're like, oh
yeah. Afterwards, you're feeling the fatigue of like the mental exercise. You're like, oh yeah,
Dude, you guys are weird. I, I go to therapy and I'm just like, I just ran a marathon and I hate everything. Like, it's just.
Yeah, but it's a good burn though, right?
I don't know
Yeah.
about a good burn.
It's a good burn.
Anyway, maybe I'm not there yet.
My practical advice for shy people is start off by like sort of limiting the channels in which you expose yourself to other humans. So like start off with maybe, you know, and I mean you kind of already do this midnight, but like being in a Discord, being in a social arena where
Mhm.
like there's very little at stake. You just have a username, and if you mess something up real bad, you can always just go do something else. Go find another Discord group, whatever. It's like very low stakes. Um, and then like voice chat, and then like Twitch, where it's like Twitch is sort of like, especially when you first start out, nobody fucking comes in your room, so you're not really like showing anybody anything. And
Mhm.
then like maybe over time you might get some people that come and hang out, but they're very low stakes kind of relationships, so you don't feel bad if like you mess them up. Because shyness is also, I think, like part of the reason some people are shy is like because they fear fucking up a friendship or like fucking up a
Yeah.
relationship or a social encounter or something, which prevents them from making those relationships. But yeah, just start off small and then just sort of like have more stakes in those relationships as you get more confident, or like pursue relationships with higher stakes, like
Yeah.
IRL friends, you know, get it, coworkers as acquaintances sort of thing, dating, like it's all sort of a start small.
Yeah.
And think of different methods that accommodate how you like to communicate too. If it's like direct speaking to another human being and that doesn't feel good, don't start with that. Start like how Des was saying, like a different mode of communication, either by like written or sharing of YouTube videos or memes or whatever it might be, to communicate what you want to communicate. Because we're all capable of analyzing like what we want out of a relationship. You know, not saying it has to be romantic or anything, but even with friendships, we can still be like, hey, I understand for myself, I want to spend at least a little bit of time with this person.
Mhm.
You know, I used to love, and you know, I approach it with like maybe it's shyness, but it was just social awkwardness or social anxiety. Um, I used to love inviting people to movies because it wasn't a direct conversation with one another. It was like, we're excited to go see this movie. We go sit in a dark room where we watch the thing. We either laugh, cry, say that was dumb, whatever it was. And then
Mhm.
afterwards, it's a common theme to talk about right after the movie.
Yeah.
And it divulges more into life stuff. Great. But I always felt a lot of comfort that I was like, okay, I don't have to be the starter of conversations a lot. Like we can
Mhm.
we can talk about the thing that we just shared an experience with. And that was really comforting. And you know, just slowly going from there.
Yeah.
Hey, look, the three solid pieces of advice. Look at that. We're 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, life experience. We've made it.
Any
Also,
other
Kara's
questions?
suggestion is also not bad for planning dates.
Yep.
Movies is
I
like
gotta
some
write
people don't
down.
like the movies, but like doing a thing together that will be a thing that you can talk about later, like a shared experience. Like, how many times are you really going to talk about that time you guys went to like a bar? Like, no. But if you guys went and saw a play together, or
Mhm.
like explored a new part of town or whatever, like you're experientially having this shared thing that you can
Mhm.
continue to talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why, like, okay, before we sign off, perfect date or like what would you want out of a date? What
Ooh.
would you do? What would you go places? Yeah.
The year is 1953.
Oh
No.
shit.
Um,
Peggy Carter comes out of a plume of smoke. Damn, woman.
yes, actually.
Legit.
Um, perfect date. I'm trying to think if I've ever had a perfect date.
Or I'm not saying perfect date, but like a date that you know that you would enjoy.
Oh. I don't know. I like exploring places. I feel like I've had lots of good experiences, like doing a thing in a new spot and being like, cool, like, let's just go try this weird thing together. Like, go exploring, like, go to this weird part of town we haven't been to, and this restaurant we've heard of, but we haven't been to, or, you know, hey, I'm new in a town and you're not. Take me somewhere. I like new stuff.
I mean, all I can think about is something outside. Like driving somewhere and going for a hike, or wandering around town to like just randomly pick a place to eat. Like I think there's some spontaneity in a date would feel pretty good.
I think for me, I keep coming back to kind of like a quality time kind of thing where like we kind of just enjoy each other's company. I don't think it really matters what we end up doing. Just that we're doing it together, you know? I can't really think of a perfect date because I don't.
You keep using the word perfect. I'm not saying perfect.
You said perfect.
You said ideal, I think.
Ideal.
Which is basically the same thing.
I don't want
Which
to
is
make it
perfect,
feel like there's a perfect of anything.
All right.
It's important. No one's perfect, so there's no perfect date.
The thing I was going to, I referenced at the beginning of the episode, and the thing I was going to come back to, and I never did. Have I told you guys about Schrodinger's lesbian hangout?
Sorry, what?
This is a
I don't
term.
even understand the words.
You decide whether it
was
was a date based on how well it goes.
Say that again.
Schrodinger's lesbian hangout.
Oh, like Schrodinger's cat.
Yes.
Oh.
It's a hangout between two lesbians, but you don't know if it's a date or not.
Oh fuck. I would fall into that way too easily.
Which is why I asked whenever you were like, I've been on 2 dates, and I was like, that you know of. Because if you've hung out with another lesbian, it might have been a date.
I actually here's a
don't know.
fun, interesting thing. And Des knows this because I talked about it when we were shooting the documentary a bunch. But like I don't have a lot of queer people around me in my network here in Calgary. But when I was working on the doc, I felt strangely like comfortable because almost everyone in the room identified
We're a very
as some
gay bunch.
Yeah, pretty gay bunch. And so that was something that it was like really difficult to kind of like yo-yo out of and into all the time, because of the doc we shot it like 4 or 5 different sections. So it'd be like, here's a taste of what it's like to have like a really good, comfortable network where we can talk about this stuff. And then you jump back to your regular life and you're like, fuck. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Not hyper lightly. You've accidentally been on a lesbian date.
I'm trying to think like of the 2 dates that I know I was on because they said it to my face. They're like, this is a date. I also think I approved of that. I liked that when I was just like, this is a date, right? And then said back, yes, this is a date. I was like, okay, cool. I like that clarity. Clarity's good.
It just happens to women who date women a lot. Is just to be like, are we hanging out because we're besties, or are we hanging out because we're trying to fuck? What is happening with that? And I see
There's
Longhorn just popped
right
in
there.
just to stand up for the straights. But Longhorn, I think it happens less with men and women couples because, first of all, men, hetero couples, the default is men and women can't hang out, or else obviously they're dating.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of the default. And B, you might have thought that you were on a date, but I guarantee that if nobody said anything, she was sure that she was not on a date.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a societal perception thing, right? So it's like,
yes,
everybody else is like, oh, they're obviously on a date, right?
Yeah.
But if it hasn't
But if
been
she didn't
stated,
say
it's not a
nothing,
date,
y'all weren't on a
and
date.
you don't get
You
to
might
assume
have
that
just
it
thought
was.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
see, I think that's why it's important to just clarify.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B,
I would
here's
rather
my
know.
advice. This is my signing off advice.
Tried to sign
B.
off in the last 10 minutes.
Clear in your communications, folks.
Just
Okay.
communicate more. Whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, two things. Two things. You need
Yeah.
to eat more pussy because whatever you're doing is already too low. I don't care how it is. Two, you need to communicate more because whatever you're doing, I don't care what it is. Like
That's
it's
solid
already too low.
advice. Yeah.
Manuscript from Des.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't know.
I'm here to inform the people.
And ride more motorcycles.
Yeah.
I can't wait to
Ride
put that later.
motorcycles.
Ride more
Yeah.
motorcycles.
Yeah.
Make more euphemisms.
You made the euphemism. I'm talking about.
But
I'm
make it
dreaming about my
motorcycle themed.
riding through
Yeah.
Norway and New Zealand and Italy and Greece and
Kara, we're
Portugal.
on Twitch.
Riding your way through
Chill
Europe.
out.
my
Oh my
God.
god.
If I have a wife in all those countries I just mentioned, I'm not going to be mad.
So you have a wife from each of those countries?
Yeah, I'll have a wife from all those countries. I have
No,
quite a
each.
list already.
No,
I have
from
my
each.
space wife.
Each, Kara. Each.
Huh?
Not one.
Because it's
through all
not
of
one
them.
person who is from all of those countries.
No,
It's
no, no.
You're,
one
From
you're
person
talking
from
about
each
one
country.
from each.
From each of them, yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I have my Norway wife and my Italy wife and my Greece wife and my Portugal wife and my Spanish wife and my New Zealand wife. I also have my space wife. I have my internet wife. I have a lot of wives.
Xandra's right. Sounds like a porn series, Kara. It's,
Amazing.
yeah.
We
I-
really, you know what?
I would
think we
love
have
to
some
meet
breakthroughs
all of
tonight.
my wives.
Grease wife.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
not Greece like that. Oh no. Put that on the list,
Maybe
Des. That's a
like
good video
maybe
concept.
you have a Grease wife and a Grease wife, and your Grease
Yeah.
wife is like your moto wife.
Oh my god, yes, my Greece wife.
She's like a motorcycle mechanic, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh
like
my
your moto
god.
wife.
I have so many wives.
So many options.
Do you understand, folks, how many wives I have? It's incredible.
well, we've established it. Clearly, a European sort of like polycule going on.
Well,
Conveniently, she does not have a wife in any country that she lives or any country that is next to any country that she lives in.
correct. I do see we're working on this, okay? This is why we're having these discussions. If you can't laugh at it, you just cry about it. So might as well add to that. Yet again, I'm signing off, folks, with my pen in my upper lip like a mustache.
Okay.
So proud of you.
And on that note, we will actually sign off this time.
Yeah, we'll
'cause
get outta
it's
here,
it's way
guys.
past when we were going to go. So, thanks for hanging out, people. Been really awesome to have the conversation. Appreciate the comments and the questions and the thoughts and the sort of perpetuating of inside jokes and creations of new ones. That's what we're all about at our channel.
Yeah.
So we do have a Discord, and we do have a channel in the Discord for LessThan3NPC, where if you have thoughts post the discussion, you're more than welcome to kind of throw them in there. If you have topics that you think we'd be cool to talk about or things you want to chat about, more than happy to take suggestions about those in there as well. And if you do join the Discord and you're not already part of it, just don't be an asshole. We got the Banhammer ready to go for anybody that is going to be one. But otherwise, it's just a cool place where I don't know, a bunch of nerds hang out and nerd out about nerdy things. So it's a cool place to kind of hang out. But it is where we kind of post a lot of updates about Lesson3NPC, about 2NPC, and a few other things. So just wanted to plug that.
Yeah, and our YouTube for this stuff.
Yeah.
Go leave a comment, even if it's just like, "Yo, we're part of the original crew."
I was here
Yeah.
live.
Yeah,
I
I
saw
was here
this
live,
live.
you little shitheads.
Yeah.
Or I don't know,
Write
something
your
like
own
that.
motorcycle fan fiction in the comments.
Oh my god. Can we start a series?
Motorcycle fan fiction.
Can we start a comment section of Kara's wives?
Yeah.
Like write a description of where my
Who
wife
are
is
they?
from.
What country are they from?
Something about them. that
Something about them. How
I
hot
think
are
would be
they?
very interesting.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I need to bring this into my life. Thank you.
Kara, I think you need to write your own fan fiction now. I think you need to start putting some thought into these wives.
Yo, I've been watching a lot of TV and movies lately, and I'm just like, and especially in terms of like lesbian content, I'm like, there is a lot of room for improvement. So
yeah, go for it.
I think I need to start writing some shit and handing it over to people who actually make movies and television and be like,
There you
this
go.
needs to be made.
Gay
It's the L word 2.0.
No, not the L word. Sorry,
Mm.
side tangent. I can't even watch the new season.
No, that's why I said 2.0
It's
though.
so
Like you could
bad.
improve upon
Oh, I
what
see what you
is
mean.
already
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
there, right? It's
Yeah, yeah.
2.0, right?
Go watch Warrior Nun so you know who my celebrity crush is.
Yeah.
Try and
Yeah.
guess.
Rules of Dating by LessThan3NPC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Be written by Des and just commentary by Kara. And I.
So how do they give Kara space and leave her be?
Yep. How do they do that? In what way do they provide Carol with space? Write in the comments.
I want a full collection. All right. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Catch me at Twitter at the Daddy Des. I also will announce, whenever this stuff is available. Also follow us on Twitter at LessThan3NPC. Until the site is dead, we're gonna be there.
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Find me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I post nice pictures of mountains.
All my links are on my
And that's
Twitch
not
profile.
a euphemism.
Or is it? Schrodinger's lesbian euphemism.
I mean, I
everything's a
do
euphemism,
love
Kara.
mountains.
We have to
That's a
leave.
euphemism for me.
We have to leave.
Yeah. I think.
Stay cool and stay strong out there.
It's not even your channel.
Bye.
Kara's already leaving. All right, folks. Again, super appreciate the conversation, and we'll see y'all later. We'll update LessThan3NPC channel when the next one's scheduled because we don't know just yet, but we will know shortly. So
I'm gone. I'm gonna go see mountains.
Damn.
damn, Kara.
Horny on Maine.
Yeah.
Photoshop, yo. Stop it. Wait, no, not like that. Like
Joe, you have to hit the eject button.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the end stream
get me out
button.
of here.
It's a good note to
I'm
end
in the
on.
void.
Thanks, Kara, for that.
Save
Okay.
me.
Night, y'all.